Welcome to Quarantine History of Otter Tail County. I'm your host, Chris Schuelke from the Otter Tail County Historical Society. So each year we start a community history tour series, and we usually start at Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Cutlerites Township. And since we are not allowed to do live tours this year, well, we're doing the next best thing by offering these via YouTube. So today, I am at Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Cutlerites Township, and in the spring and summer of 1865, about 120 men, women, and children settled on a strip of land between two lakes in the yet-to-be-established Otter Tail County. A Mormon splinter group, whose leader Alpheus Cutler had died in 1864, they believed this spot of land was the one ordained by Cutler in a vision he had had to settle. The lake, township, and their community would be named Clitheroe, after George B. Clitheroe, a United States Land Office agent in Otter Tail City from 1857 to 1861. 4 homesteads comprised the original Clitheroe community. The homesteads were claimed by Hiram Murdoch, Lyman Murdoch, Chauncey Whiting, and John Fletcher. In fact, Mount Pleasant Cemetery, where I am standing right now, is on land originally homesteaded by Hiram Murdoch. So although Cutlerites comprise most of the burials here at Mount Pleasant, the cemetery is in fact non-denominational. It was officially organized in 1898, but was used as a burial place long before that. So for the next several episodes here on Quarantine History, we are going to explore the lives of several of the Cutlerites buried here at Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Well, here we are at the gravestone of Almond Whiting. There are a number of Whitings in Mount Pleasant Cemetery because 4 Whiting brothers, Chauncey, Sylvester, Almond, and Francis Lewis, are buried here at Mount Pleasant. The 4 brothers grew up in the Young Latter-day Saint Church and moved with the Saints from Ohio to Missouri to Illinois, across Iowa, and finally to Minnesota. The sons of Elisha and Sally Hewlett Whiting, the family was living in Nelson, Ohio. In 1830, they were visited by Mormon missionaries from nearby Kirtland. The entire family was converted, although Elisha resisted until a near-death experience changed his mind. The Whitings moved with and experienced anti-Mormon persecutions until settling about 30 miles south of Nauvoo, Illinois, in a community known as Morley Settlement. It was there that Chauncey married Editha Morley, daughter of Isaac Morley, for whom the settlement was named. Any hope of putting down roots was dashed in 1844. Shortly after Mormon leader Joseph Smith was killed in Carthage, Illinois, mobs attacked the Morley settlement. Chauncey was away when a mob came to burn their home. After helping move their possessions out of the house, Editha and 1-year-old Isaac watched helplessly as the mob burned their home to the ground. After that, they fled north to Nauvoo, and in 1846 moved again, this time to southwestern Iowa. In April 1846, the company stopped at the Mormon camp known as Mount Pigsa, where they planted some crops and made some makeshift cabins. While there, Captain James Allen arrived to recruit men to serve in the Mexican-American War. 25-year-old Almond Whiting was among those who volunteered for what was known as the Mormon Battalion, a volunteer unit of just over 500 Latter-day Saints. The Mormon Battalion is the only religiously based unit in United States military history. During its one-year service, the battalion made a grueling march of nearly 2,000 miles from Council Bluff, Iowa to San Diego, California. Their march and service supported the eventual cessation of much of the Southwest from Mexico to the United States. And many battalion veterans played significant roles in America's westward expansion to California, Utah, Arizona, and other parts. In 1863, Almond Whiting married Lydia Marie Garfield, who was the first cousin to James Garfield, the nation's 20th president. Garfield, of course, was fatally wounded on July 2nd, 1881, just 6 months after his inauguration, and he died 2 months later. Almond Whiting's role in the Cutlerite community was that of a skilled furniture maker, especially with chairs. Ellis Murdoch recalled Whiting's one-room shop and the old man in overalls turning, sawing, gluing, and painting his distinctive chairs. And outside the shop were 2 horses treading in a circle, driving the turnstile that powered the tools to make bins full of chair parts awaiting assembly. Most homes in Clitheroe had Whiting's sturdy chairs in their kitchens, dining rooms, and porches. In 1879, Almond moved 6 miles from Clitheroe to take an adjoining homestead with his brother, Francis Lewis. The move was strongly opposed by their brother Chauncey, who felt the separation contradicted the intent of Alpheus Cutler. The move, however, was economically motivated. Francis Lewis needed more land to farm, and Almond needed the oak and maple growing in Girard Township for his chairs. Now join me as we visit the grave site of Chauncey and Editha Whiting. Here we are between the headstones of Chauncey Whiting and his wife, Editha. The 1844 death of Joseph Smith had left a leadership vacuum within the Mormon Church. Many followed Brigham Young, while others became adherents of Alpheus Cutler. In 1848, companies of saints began leaving for Utah, but the Whiting brothers stayed in Iowa to follow Alpheus Cutler. Settling in the southwestern Iowa town of Manti, the Cutlerites built a thriving community of almost 500 residents. Stability was fleeting as the Whitings followed Cutler's vision to once again pack all their belongings and leave for Minnesota. Chauncey and Editha left Manti with the second and larger group of Cutlerites in January 1865. They arrived in Clitheroe in July, and Chauncey was filed one of the 4 homesteads that made up Clitheroe. Because of their steadfast belief that the end times were near, the 4 homesteads were deemed enough for the entire community. Within 2 years, Chauncey Whiting was ordained church president, and he was on the first Otter Tail County Board of Commissioners. In correspondence with relatives in Utah, he painted an optimistic picture of life in Minnesota. He wrote about the good hunting and fishing, the excellent relations with the Native Americans, land where all sorts of crops could be grown, cold but healthy winters, high prices for farm goods, and the freedom to believe in cutlerism until the calamities came. Whiting's optimism turned to doubt in 1875 when followers of Joseph Smith III, otherwise known as the Josephites, visited Clitheroe. Unlike the Cutlerites, who believed in the communal ownership of land and wealth, the Josephites did not pressure members to deed over their personal wealth and property to the church. And instead of rejecting contemporary society as the Cutlerites did, the Josephites adjusted to it while retaining many of the unique characteristics of the Latter-day Saint Church. The Josephite message of more individual freedom was attractive, and it resulted in a number of converts. Although Chauncey and Editha and brothers Almond, Sylvester, and Francis Lewis remained faithful Cutlerites, the next generation and others who had married into the Cutlerite community left to join the Josephites. The defections greatly bothered Chauncey and put him in a dark mood. In a letter to his daughter Emmeline, he wrote of being overrun with work, long winters, short growing seasons, and west central Minnesota being a bleak, cold, barren place to live. Still, in 1885, Chauncey and Editha's 20-year-old log house was replaced by a larger, more comfortable frame house. According to Chauncey, the new home was more clean and warm and easier for the woman to keep in proper order. But he was no more at home than my old log hut. Editha died in 1893, while Chauncey died in 1902. So I want to take a moment to thank my good friends Betty Peterson and Evelyn Price, fellow Wisconsinites and Cutlerite descendants, for all their research and work on the Cutlerite community. They pulled all their research together to write a fascinating book entitled From Manti to Mount Pleasant, which was published by the Otter Tail County Historical Society. And to order a copy, just please check out our website. If you are enjoying our series, Quarantine History of Otter Tail County, along with Missy Hermey's History by the Highway and Kathy Evevold's Township series, well then I want you to think about becoming a member of the Otter Tail County Historical Society. Being closed during the pandemic has been tough, as we are losing significant amounts of revenue through museum admissions and program fees. We are a private nonprofit organization that relies on community support. The best way to support us is by becoming a member. And to do that, once again, please check out our website, www.otchs.org. Well, thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time here at Mount Pleasant Cemetery on Quarantine History of Otter Tail County.